Welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice. Join me as we explore spirituality, self-help, and channeling spirit. Hello and welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice, spiritual medium. Thank you for tuning in for another action-packed show this week. As in this week's episode, we're going to be discussing the topic of inspired writing. Also in this week's episode, we have the channeling from the world of spirit, which sees me becoming a vessel for spirit to bring their wisdom and communications through. And then later on in the show, we have this week's energy forecast reading, which will hopefully help you navigate your way through the course of this week ahead. As I say, we're discussing the topic of inspired writing. So let's start at the beginning with this subject. First of all, there is knowledge and wisdom all around us, wherever we happen to be. And I'm talking on an energetic vibration, the world of the unseen, the information, the emotions, the thoughts, the sounds, the frequencies are all around us. And it's usually because we're too involved in what we're doing to actually pick up on this information in great detail. Usually we're too focused, or some may say distracted, by what's happening in our environment, or maybe what we're inspired to look at, should I say, or encouraged to look at. That's a better term, isn't it? But I would certainly say that we are all constantly being inspired and guided by our higher self and our spirit guides and helpers. Now, this happens instinctually on a daily basis, moment-by-moment basis, and a lot of us aren't necessarily conscious that this is the case. Because a thought is just implanted into our mind, we instantly assume that we've thought that, we've created that. But that's not necessarily the case. This could be outside influences, maybe mind programming, brainwashing. You've heard of those terminologies, I'm sure. Potentially the technology is there for this to actually occur now in this timeline that we're living in. But also there's other people's thought energy, their emotions as well, that's in this thick soup of energy in the atmosphere. But I would say 9 times out of 10, a lot of this information is directly given to you from your higher self or your spirit guides in order to propel you forward on the path of least resistance within the timeline of your life there. Many of us are aware of this information and encouragement that does come in, and we instantly don't like the information that we're being given, and we think, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I know better. I'm going to do this instead. And how many times have we all done that and made those choices in our mind, only to find out that we didn't know better, and in fact, the initial inspiration we were gifted was the path of least resistance, the quickest route, the easiest, most high vibrational route that we could have chosen. Except because we have the gift of free will, we chose not to take that avenue. And in doing so, we've learned the hard way, and we're treading life a little bit differently than perhaps initially we would in that time frame. However, I would say that if something's meant, we'll always get to where we need to. Usually it's the path of least resistance, the inspiration that will guide us to the best outcome possibility to that situation. Anyway, I'm talking slightly off of topic there, but it is relevant with what we're talking about today. I would certainly suggest we're talking about, obviously, inspired writing. To enable yourself to get to that level of receiving that inspired writing, it is important that you set time aside for spirit on a regular basis. Now, when I talk about regular basis, I'm talking about one day, maybe an evening, half an hour, whatever your time allows you to do so, But as long as you keep it on that same day every week, and that will build an energetic bond, a cord of positive attachment to your higher self, your spirit guides and helpers, so that they know at that time they're going to be sitting with you in the silence, working with your vibration. And it's a beautiful relationship that you do bond when you do this on a regular basis, because that level of trust will be amplified. And also those barriers of resistance that maybe you as an individual have placed in front of yourself to stop you from receiving these inspired thoughts and inspired information. Those barriers start to, I would say, crumble, and that level of trust takes over. So I would say that this is very important to make this part of your lifestyle. Lifestyle is a key word in this process, in receiving inspired writing and information, because to heighten your vibration, you're going to have a closer look at your lifestyle. This involves the people that you hang around with, also the thoughts in your mind, also the music, or maybe the media that you consume, the food that you consume. Are you keeping yourself fit and healthy, mind, body, and spirit? All these things need to be taken into account if you're aiming to receive inspired writing and inspired wisdom, because ideally what you're aiming for is to be a clear channel, a clear vessel for this inspiration and this wisdom to filter through you. So do, first of all, have a look at where you're at in your life and be honest with yourself. Because if you're trying to kid yourself, fool yourself, then again, you're not going to get the precise, accurate, inspirational information that perhaps you've been desiring for some time. So you've got to clear the decks, clear the debris in order to change your lifestyle around to receive this wisdom on a higher level. As I say, we're all experiencing distractions in our life, from media, advertising, maybe manipulation in some way, shape or form. So hold your hands up and be aware of that and just say, yeah, I am doing that. I never realized before, didn't realize. I didn't give it my time and attention. Well, when you're more open and honest with yourself, again, you'll see these little potholes, for want of a better term, in your life where you need to mend in order to live this high vibrational lifestyle where you can be in receipt of inspiration from spirit and your higher self. I would say as well, with this process, surrendering to it. And this is I would say one of the hardest things when you're working with energy, with spirit, is actually removing your way of thinking. You don't know better. You don't see the bigger picture. And it's removing your way of how you see a perceived outcome, taking that out the equation and having that level of trust. By surrendering, it allows you to be that vessel of light for this communication and wisdom and inspiration to filter through you. One example I could give you, when you're, I would say, doing random tasks in the home, for example, ironing clothes or washing the dishes, if people still do that by hand, then your mind is wandering. There's a level of freeness and surrendering in your mind, because the task that you're doing, you can do it standing on your head. It's very sort of mundane, I would say, anyway. And it allows your mind to drift and just to be open, surrendering. So in these sort of activities, naturally, this is what occurs. And how many times have you been doing these jobs around the home, and all of a sudden this is where you get your eureka moments. You get that inspiration that strikes. Because your mind's not particularly busy. You've surrendered to what is. You've surrendered to the task that you're doing, albeit a boring one. But it's certainly a way of receiving inspiration. So I'm sure many of you have had that during doing jobs of a similar nature to what I'm describing to you. The next thing, when you reach that vibration, when you're setting time for spirit, and like we've said earlier, it could be the fact that you could be multitasking, could be doing the dishes or ironing, and you just hold that clear space in your mind for this inspiration to come in. And that is the key word, I would say, holding space. And when you have that clarity in your mind, then this is where you create that space for spirit, for your higher self to come in with this inspiration, this wisdom. Ideally, if you can, this is the moment where inspired writing can really come into its own. And by holding that space in your mind, I'd encourage you to pick up a pen and paper and to record some of these ideas, this information, these sentences, these words that you're hearing, and write them down onto paper. Now, can I just make the distinction between inspired writing and automatic writing? Okay, so first of all, inspired writing is when we get these ideas in our head, when we can hear these sentences in our head, and we then begin to consciously write them down, almost parrot fashion. I'm hearing this, I'm writing it down. I'm hearing this, I'm writing it down. To me, that is inspired writing, because the information that we're being given in our mind, it's not coming from us. It's coming from an outside source, our higher self, maybe our spirit guides and helpers there. Automatic writing, now this is the distinction, is where you relax your body, where you've built up a rapport with energy, with spirit. And I would say you go into, for want of a better term, a trance-like state, where your mind is blank, your physical body is relaxed, is calm. You have a pen in your hand and it's positioned on a piece of paper, and you're not consciously wanting to move your hand. You're not consciously having any thoughts in your head or anything of that nature. You're just being at peace, at bliss in that moment, holding the pen to paper. And then the next minute, your hand starts to make involuntary movements. In other words, you're not intending your hand to move, and it's moving across the page, and it's forming words onto that paper that you wasn't thinking about or even intending to write. This is where spirit, or a spirit communicator, blends their energy, their frequency with yours, your physical body, and because you're in that relaxed state of being, in a trance-like state of being, that resistance isn't there anymore. So spirit find it easier to blend their energy with you and use you as a vessel to write through. And so what will happen then is the spirit that you're channeling in your physical body will manipulate the movements of your hand in order to bring that information forward. So that is my distinction of inspired writing and automatic writing. Okay, so obviously we're talking about inspired writing. So we're talking about when you're holding that space, when you feel the urge to pick up a pen and paper there. And in true parrot fashion, you're listening to your mind with the thoughts, the inspiration, the ideas, the sentences, and you're then just copying that down and writing it down consciously onto the paper there. And you give yourself as long as it takes in order for you to complete the task of recording all of this information onto the page. What I mean by that is by holding that space in your mind, you're listening and then you're writing. You're listening and then you're writing. And you're not judging the information. This is an important part of the process, because when you start judging the information as you're hearing it in your mind, then this is where that inspiration and that connection to spirit or your higher self can get weaker and weaker, because you're filtering out with your own judgment that hired inspirational information. So just allow the thoughts to come in, write them down, don't think about them, just listen and write, listen and write. And then when you feel or notice that those words and that information in your mind starts to wane, starts to dissipate, then at this stage, this is, I would say, a telltale sign that that inspired information is now reaching an end. So at that point, when you've extracted all you can, then you can put down your pen and paper. And then you can start to read the inspired truths, the wisdoms that have come through you. And I would say at this stage, you'll be, in the beginning, when you start to do this, it might not make a lot of sense because it may come out in a jumbled form. And this is just you learning to get used to that information that you're hearing. You're building up that bond, that energetic relationship with your higher self and your guides there. So don't panic. Don't think that you're doing this wrong. You're not at all. It all starts like this. But anyway, read through the information and take on board what it's trying to tell you. You may have to dig a little bit deeper into the words that are used in the communication. The words that are gifted to you may not make sense to you in the present moment that you're reading it. Perhaps this information is for a future time that you haven't experienced yet, so bear that in mind. But I would recall and record all of that information, document it. I would put a date and a time when you allow that information to come forward, and then you have that in your reference then for you to look back on. And then notice when some of these things either unfold or guidance is given that makes complete sense to a situation that is unfolding for you, then you can refer back to these notes and then it will start to make more sense to you. But also with inspired writing, many other things can come through as a result of you holding that space for spirit. I would certainly say that a lot of great speakers, including people that stand to the front, maybe in a church organization or in a spiritual organization, I would certainly say that a lot of that information that they're sharing with you will have been obtained through this process that I'm encouraging you to try and have a go. Inspired writing, holding space, clearing the mind with non-judgment. I would certainly suggest that a lot of it has come through in this level there. With that being said, you can set some intentions before you start this process. And what I mean by saying that, for example, if you happen to be doing a speech or something important, public speaking, and you have a certain subject matter that you want to address that inspires others, that helps others, that gives others that guidance, and also is very engaging and magnetic in its quality, then this is where you can state these things. When you're holding that space for the inspired writing to come through, before you start the process, simply call out, talk into the ether where you happen to be, and state what it is you're after. So, for example, you could be wanting questions answered, and you might want some specific answers. So in your intention, when you're calling out, this is where you would ask, I would like information about where we're going as a human species. I'm just giving you an example now. And that will set the tone. That will connect you with that intention. It will let your higher self and spirit know what they need to focus on. And then it's at that point, when you've said that, let it go. Don't have any perceived ideas or outcomes in your mind. What information's going to come forward? Again, not having any judgment, just holding that space for clarity. And then just pause, grab your pen, get the paper, and listen. Listen. I use the term listen, but I'm talking about observing really, because this is information that pops in our head, words that we hear in our head, in thought form, obviously. So look out for that, observe that, and then write it down. Again, when you're writing it down, don't try and read it out, because that will slow the process down. Don't have any judgments at all with the information. Just allow yourself to hear and then write down. Hear, write down. And then you can look at it when you feel that you've finished that information exchange with your higher self or your spirit guides. It can be a very enlightening process as well. And also, as we've said on here before, with words, there is a sound, there is a frequency. Everything is energy, everything is frequency, vibrating at different rates there. So with the information, with the words that are given to you in your inspired writing, when you've asked and set some intentions, there is an element of healing, of empowerment, infused into the vibration of the words that were gifted to you to write down on the piece of paper. And obviously, if you're doing a speech or something like that out in public, when you speak out those words, you then create that vibration out into the ether, which has, like I say, either a healing or a magnetic or engaging quality about them. So it's not just the information that is being exchanged with you. It is, as I say, the healing, the frequency, the inspiration, the magnetic pull and calling and heightening of your vibration. Now, this process is one that I use on a regular basis. Personally, I hold space for spirit, for my higher self to come in. And you've heard me talk about this many, many times now, that all the content in the information that I do bring forward, for such as shows like this, or when I'm doing some inspired, I would say, talks online or something of that nature, it all is birthed through this process of me holding space, listening, writing, and just observing with no judgment whatsoever. It's a wonderful process to embody into your life. But as I said earlier, you have to make, I would say, little changes within your lifestyle to keep yourself clear as a vessel, to keep yourself as pure as possible, and for you not to be influenced by negative outward sources, because obviously that can have an impact on the quality and the connection with your higher self and spirit and the information that's wanting to be birthed through you. But definitely with doing this on a regular basis, keeping time for spirit, setting aside a time in your week, maybe it can start off with 10 minutes and then progress to 20 and then maybe half an hour, even take it up to an hour if you feel comfortable by doing this. But it is a progressive state, so don't run before you can walk. Take one step at a time. But what you will notice is it will encourage your sensitivity and the rest of your natural gifts and abilities to come more online, so you're more aware of them. And the reason I know this is how I initially started on my journey with mediumship and with the spiritual gifts and abilities. It all started, for me, it was automatic writing, as I've described to you the definition of the two. This is where you go into a trance-like state, automatic writing, and spirit take over your hand and they bring forward the information. So that's how I first started on my spiritual journey. And I just weekly, I held space for me to do that. And there was a level of excitement because I didn't know what was going to come through. This was prior to the internet, the conception of the internet. And so I had no idea of the information, the words that were going to come through. And when they did come through and I read the information afterwards, it was mind-boggling, mind-blowing, in fact, because A lot of the grammar that was used were words that I wouldn't use at all and had never used in my day-to-day life. So I know that this wasn't me, on some level bringing forward that information. So that was fascinating in itself, seeing the way that this information unfolded. It was obviously, it wasn't me. And that intrigued me. That got me into a space where, again, like I say, I was holding weekly space for this to occur. And over a period of time, that level of trust bond had I would say, had cemented within me and with my spirit guides and spirit team to enable other facets within my spiritual gifts and abilities to start to unfold. One of those things, first of all, went into, I would say, clear audience, which is clear hearing, which is one of the techniques that you'll be using to bring forward inspired writing. So you're hearing, they call it hearing, but really you're observing thoughts in your mind. You may hear words being spoken, but you're observing thoughts. So it went to that with me. I was hearing the sounds, hearing different voices in my head, telling me certain parts of information. And then I would then consciously put that down onto paper in the form of inspired writing. So the progression from automatic writing for me went into inspired writing, which went into clear audience. And then what started to unfold was clear sentience. So I was getting a feeling, I was getting sensations on my physical and emotional body there. I was noticing these emotional connections and the feeling if something was right or if it was wrong. And so I was aware of that unfolding. That then went into clairvoyance, which means clear seeing. And this is where we use the third eye. So I began seeing images, almost like daydreaming, where you see those little videos playing out in your mind. I was seeing those with great depth of colour, great detail, and they were on, I would say, loop, on repeat, until I understood the information that I was being presented with. And as we know, or shall most of you may know, that spirit and working with energy has a language of its own. And this can be quite confusing at times when you're first starting out. Now, the language is symbolism. And so gestures and symbolism. So certain things that you will perceive to have a meaning in your 3D earthly life, well, when you work with spirit, that can have multiple meanings. It's not just that, it's a multiple meaning. And it can come in the form of feelings, emotions. Also, if you're shown an image, it can mean a complete sentence or a sentiment or a phrase or something like that. So the reason spirit work in this fashion is they like to use the path of least resistance. And as we say, it's all about holding that space, holding that connection with vibrational energy. And if they can bring forward lots of information that doesn't require a lot of energy to bring that forward, then they're going to use that. And this is, in my experience, why spirit use symbolism, the language of symbolism and emotions and feelings, in order to convey information to you at a faster rate. And it's down to you, through your wisdom, your own personal experiences and your own interpretations, to build up, I would say, a form of interpretation skills with the information that's being shared with you. And so you begin to come familiar with some of these symbolisms, what they represent. I'm going on a bit of a tangent with you on this one, aren't I? But what I'm referring to, hopefully you get where I'm coming from, is for me personally, it all started from automatic writing. And then as a result of holding that space on a weekly basis, trusting the process, building that relationship up with spirit, then this is where, step by step, some of the other abilities that I now possess started to come into form. And it didn't just happen overnight. So never assume that, yes, I can do this now, I'll be able to see a ghost or a spirit next week. Doesn't always work like that. Spirit like to use incremental steps. They certainly did with me. They didn't want to overwhelm me. They didn't want to intimidate me. They wanted me to have a greater understanding of the process so that I didn't hold the vibration of fear in any step of the progress of me unfolding. Because as we know, the fear-based energy can unravel all of that hard work that you've done working with light, high vibrational beings. It can pull the vibration down to the point where it's difficult to reconnect and get that connection with your higher self or your spirit guides. So my guides brought it in incrementally, and I would say seeing spirit physically with my physical eyes, I would say that came at a later stage, because they didn't want to scare or intimidate me and shut me down halfway through the process of expanding these abilities and my vibration there. But I'm quite happy now that I can see spirit with my physical eyes, and it doesn't intimidate me or instill me with that vibration of fear. And that is down to the process, the incremental process that spirit have worked with me over the years there. I would have said if I'd a saw spirit in the beginning, that could have potentially put me off and put me in that fear state. But because I know the information I do and why spirit come through in that way now, and how certain individuals can see and other people can't, then it doesn't present a problem for me anymore. So I'm still vibrating that high vibrational frequency. So I would say when it is appropriate, after you've brought forward your inspired writing, and I would say ideally this information has come forward so that you can share it. It's a gift for you to share with other people. I would say for you to share it with people that share your views, that are like and mind, like and heart, like and soul. And that way the information can be well received and you can feel in alignment with the information that you brought forward. It only takes that one person to say, what is that? What are you talking about? I don't understand. It only takes one person to do that, to pull your vibration down and to discourage you from continuing to do that. So this is why I've said, when you do have that inspired writing, only share it with people that you feel comfortable and aligned with, that will be I would say, that are open to listening and hearing about this information that you brought forward. You don't always have to tell them that it's from spirit, your higher self, because initially when you do that, in most occasions, it puts people on the back foot and they get very doubtful. Just read the information as it is with trustworthy souls. So I hope this piece has given you something to think about. And just to let you know that you are all connected, you can all do this that I'm talking about. It all is down to you and your choice of free will, and the fact that you create space on a weekly basis for spirit and your higher self to communicate with you through this fashion. Not forgetting that it all starts with you looking after yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit, because it is a complete lifestyle change when you start to tread this pathway. In a moment, we're going to move into the next segment of the show, which is this week's channeling, which sees me becoming a vessel for spirit to bring their wisdoms and communications through. Slightly before I do that, I would like to touch base with you all, as I always like to see how you're getting on and what has been happening in your world. Have you noticed any twists and changes coming in? I know I certainly have over the past week, and I've just spent some time kicking back and just being okay about having periods of non-activity in my life. I say that I am busy, obviously. We've all got families to support and housework to do, and being self-employed is always something to do. But what I found is that over the past weekend or so, I'm finding that space has been returned back for me to reflect, to chill out, to clear my mind. And also this enables me to become a clear vessel for inspiration and wisdom to come in, which I have been gratefully receiving from spirit. And in actual fact, I've been finding that this space that's been created in my life has enabled me to get a more stronger, more fixed link with spirit, a more direct approach, if you will, where my guides are continually talking to me louder and more prominent on a daily basis, which I'm absolutely fascinated and also grateful for the experience. So that's been my experience. Anyway, we're going to move into this week's channeling from Spirit. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this channeling.
We gather round you all today to let you know about certain opportunities that are arising in your vibration on your planet. These opportunities will miss a lot of people because they're not in alignment with them. They're not seeing the opportunities. They're not sensing, they're not feeling the opportunities. There's a lot of vibrational alignments that are occurring for those that are observing and paying attention and doing the inner work. Many of you listening to this may have lived a life of hardship or, shall we say, a degree of vast learning and haven't had these opportunities enter your timeline as yet. We say to you that you are on the cusp of experiencing it, but you must pay attention, step out of the old vibration, what you were experiencing, and have faith and courage into walking into a new timeline of abundance and appreciation. Your experience upon this vibration of abundance will also add to the vast degree of the universe with your encounters and experiences, helping others to find their own abundance and to have that level of free will in doing so. There's lots of changes that are occurring around your planetary in this moment in time, and you'll find that there's going to be a transference of wealth and opportunity. We talk about this quite often in this communication, but it's now time the tables are turning, and those that have caused harm or upset or misalignments will now be experiencing the other side of their timeline, karma, shall we say the scales of justice are turning, and so that everybody has this experience of lack, and then everybody has the experience of abundance, and so you see it can harmonize and balance out your planet so that everybody at some level will eventually move back into alignment where you experience the duality of life and share forward your experience and energetic communications upon the universe, where everybody can live in harmony and everybody will feel the beautiful scales within their timeline upon their life, finding their pivotal balancing point. We also want to let you know that there's other worlds, other dimensions that are going to be observed by most of you in the next 2 to 3 years. And this is because your vibration is heightening as a collective, and also the energy split that we spoke to you about many, many times, where lots of you will be moving into this 5th dimension. Most of you are already there, but the definitive cutoff point is drawing closer. And with this being said, a lot of you will be experiencing heightened senses, experiences with your emotions and also your vision and hearing. We witness some of these, shall we say, other communities, galactic communities being observed in your dimension. Many of you will feel the inclination to look up to the skies and see various artifacts there, coming and going as they come and go into resonance in your vibrational energy field. And when you align with that, you'll have fleeting glimpses of these communities above you. To many will look at you, gone out, saying, no, I can't see that, I'm not experiencing that. And that's for those that are going through their phase of transition into the split in the 5D dimension. Now with this, many of you will experience extrasensory experiences. And what we are referring to when we say that is the fact that you'll pick up on vibrations around you, having some sort of communication with you, perhaps a non-verbal communication, and communicating to you through the medium of emotions and pictorial pieces of information which will be projected to you in your third eye, in your imagination, in your mind, shall we say. And no, you are not making this information up. You are simply aligning with this information and being gifted an abundance of energy and also help and guidance through these times. Most of you will be experiencing changes with your physical body and experiencing almost as if the time clock is going backwards. And what we're referring to when we say that is you'll have, no matter what your age, you'll begin to look more youthful and radiant. And we say this has a combination of things that have caused this effect on you. One, your belief system. Two, your healthy boundaries you're setting around yourself. Three, you're looking after your mental and emotional and physical health. Four, you're being drawn towards nutrient foods and drink that will propel you forward into this vibration of youthfulness. And despite you slowing the aging process down, you'll have a glow about your skin, will appear different. You'll also have a sparkle in your eyes, and you'll have more energy to do the things that are for the greatest good of the collective. Now, a lot of people will be looking at you and asking you the questions, how are you doing it? And when you do communicate to them your perception of how it is done, they will look at you gone out, and it will be very alien to them, the fact that you have to do this, you have to do that. And a lot of them will decide not to follow that course, that path. Even though part of them desires it, they're not prepared to put in the level of effort and work and changing their routine in order to obtain this beautiful high vibrational energy. Most of you will be experiencing opportunities coming to you rather than you going chasing after them. And again, this will become pretty alien to most of you because you've always lived in a society where you have to fight for things, where you have to push and strive for things. And in actual fact, what you have to do is release the attachment to doing that and just be comfortable in your present moment, but whilst holding the vibration and the image of that which you desire in your experience. And the more you relax, the more you will receive. And this sounds completely alien to most of you because you've been brought up in a society, like we say, that has to obtain and has to force and has to project things. And we say that's wonderful that you have that energy to be able to do that. But the actual truth of the matter is non-attachment, relaxation, enables you to be open to work with the energies of the universe so that these experiences can be brought to you and you're not blocking them. Another thing we wish to communicate to you in this communication is notice the vibration of your heart changing. And what we mean is it's going to be more magnetic, more open. You'll be more of a vessel for love. You'll start to feel rejuvenated with this beautiful calling and vibration of love. It will make you feel warm. It will make you feel expansive. It makes you feel connected. Also, you'll notice the communications of people around you, the way that they behave slightly differently when you walk into a room or whether you go to a new location. People will be a combination of things. One, they'll be repelled by your vibration because it will be too overwhelming for them to actually undertake. And you will pose a threat to them because it brings up all of the debris emotionally, mentally, physically that they've been stifling down. It will bring it up to the surface to enable them to make the choice of letting it go so that they can thrive on their timeline. Now, a lot of people won't understand what's going on. All they'll know is that they feel very uncomfortable and they feel very negative. And this is not your vibration, you must understand. This is the vibration of love and healing, extracting and forcing out those old wounds and those old vibrations that are no longer serving these people. It is their choice on which path they wish to choose, and in many cases it takes a great deal of courage to go through those emotions. Many people will call this the dark night of the soul. Other people call this evolution. It's just terms at the end of the day. But we assure you that this is for the highest timeline for one and all, should you choose to make that choice. Now, there will be those people when you're walking or going in various locations that will be naturally gravitating towards you because of the love that you're holding in your heart and in your vibration. These people feel very empowered by your energy. You're building their courage up. You're expanding their, shall we say, their vibration so that they can do the very same that you're doing, spreading that love, spreading that light, and together you will create resonance harmonically on the earth plane by doing this. So just a few things to communicate with you today, and we hope we haven't fried your brain by bringing this information for you. But we understand that it takes time to change and move on different pathways, so we do not wish to force you into doing anything that your soul is not allowing you to go down. When the time is right, you will make these choices and you will go with the flow. However, you will be observing these changes when the time is right for you on your timeline. We send you our love, our devoted healing energy, and we long and wish to communicate you in some time in the near future, bringing you more depths of truths that are far beyond your human perception. So for now, we wish you all the very best in your week as it unfolds ahead. Goodbye for now.
Again, another fantastic communication there from the world of spirit. Wonderful to hear how in depth they went with the new opportunities that are lining up for us as we're becoming to get more into our own vibrational alignment. That's when we've done the inner work and we've removed all of those debris that perhaps have been keeping us stuck or small at this moment in time. Encouraging to hear about, watch out for changes globally where there's going to be a shift in power, so to speak, and also the fact that we're going to be extra sensory with our experiences. So picking up on other people's emotions, also having inspiration being gifted to us from the world of spirit, again, to help us through these very unusual times that we're all navigating our way through. And communications are going to change. People will pick up on our vibration, and for some, it may trigger them. For others, it may inspire them. So some very encouraging words there from Spirit. We're now going to move into the next segment of the show, which is this week's forecast reading. So sit back, relax, take some notes if you wish to do so, and enjoy this week's reading.
Hello, my name is Glenn Boddice and I'm a spiritual medium, and welcome to this week's energy forecast reading for the week commencing Monday the 2nd of December 2024. Now, those of you that have watched me work before will know that I connect with my spirit guides and helpers and also consult the wisdom of the angel tarot card. So what I'm about to do is shuffle the pack and allow a card to come out for this week's forecast reading. Okay, so this is your card for this week's forecast reading. I'm now going to link into the energy of that. First of all, my guides are telling me that this week is going to be a very substantial week for you, where you're going to remove a lot of emotional and mental blocks that have been holding you back on your timeline within your life. It will see you having a stubborn state of mind. And what I mean by this is that you won't back down when you feel something in your core, in your truth of who you are to be the truth. You will not back down and you will not change your mind to suit others or fit in. This is going to be quite frustrating to those people around you, whether family, friends or loved ones, because they know in their heart of hearts that once you've made your mind up, that's it. There's no budging you. However, this sees you listening to your truth, your inner calling, and actually following it regardless of outside influences. Also this week, we'll see you standing up for yourself a little bit more, speaking up for what your truths are, what you believe in. And again, it will feel quite alienating to some people around you because they will just know that they haven't got the words to actually express or reply to you. However, do not take this personally. It is part of your evolvement and your expansion. This week will also see you being left out in the cold, so to speak. Again, I feel as though it is related to you finding your truth. And this is what my guides are telling me. This is something to do with the split in vibrational frequencies. There's also going to be a lot of sadness around you this week. And what I mean by this as well is there'll be people that maybe haven't got to this point in their life where they've made that realization of self, and they will be grieving in that grieving process, in that frustration process, where they're finding it difficult to actually comprehend what is actually happening in their life on their timeline. Don't judge, don't take this personally, just stand in your truth, stand in your power. This week will also see you having that inclination to get more physical exercise, whether this is a walk around the block, whether this is doing cardiovascular in the home, such as yoga or some sort of fitness regime that you feel that you need to do. Whatever form it falls in, you will find yourself being active. And this will actually help you to let the blood obviously flow through your physical body, let the oxygen flow through your physical body, but also it will align mind, body and spirit for you. Again, where you're connecting to the truth of who you are. My guides keep mentioning outside influences, and then they're showing me a cross like that. So that would indicate not to listen to or observe or take on board any outside influences that do not match the truth of who you are. That seems to be a prominent message from my guides this week, following your true authenticity this week. I've also got to say, watch out for you hearing different frequencies, and I mean like ringing in the ears, particularly the left ear. And this is the angelic realm bringing in the ascension codes, the heightened vibrations, to keep you in your highest timeline. So don't be alarmed if you hear a high-pitched shrill noise in the left ear. This is what is occurring. I'm also feeling that your heart chakra is opening up, and I feel very grateful as well, this level of gratitude as I'm feeling that with your week ahead. So this would indicate you being more open. This would also indicate you being more assertive, and also vibrating the vibration of love. And I'm hearing the words tough love. So usually when that comes about, it's where we have to be cruel to be kind in order to help people ascend on their own journeys there. So that's what my guides are telling me. Let's turn over the card for this week. At the top of the card, we've got the angel number of number 3. So I'd like you to research that as an angel number, and that will give you additional content and information. At the bottom of the card, it reads creation, abundance, and action. What I feel this represents, again, you'll be standing in the truth of who you are this week. So what you will be doing is you'll be listening and you'll be observing inspirations coming in, and then you'll be putting those into action. Finally, you're going to get the courage to stand in your power and actually do it, rather than overthinking it and maybe tying yourself up in knots. How am I going to make that work? How am I going to bring that into my life? It's going to see you actually just doing it anyway. And you'll be so pleased that you have come to that conclusion, because your life's going to flow again with abundance, and it's going to come in unexpected ways. So whatever you need, you'll get it at the right place at the right time. So have that faith, have that patience. It is all coming in for you. So looking at the card itself, looking at around the edge of the card, we've got the color, I would describe that as purple. So purple to me is talking about protection. It's talking about a sense of regalness. Regalness is talking about, say, king or queen vibration. Again, sitting in the seat of your own power, recognizing your divinity, and also not being afraid to delegate when the time is right. Purple is also talking about the influence from spirit and protection from your higher self, your spirit guides, and your family, friends, and loved ones in the world of spirit. They're very much around you, more so now than ever. Obviously, we're moving into the festive season, so they're going to be naturally drawn to you. But I feel as though there's another reason. Again, my guides are saying it's because of this split and the thinning of the veil of the conscious worlds, the physical and the non-physical. So you will experience seeing flashes out the side of your eye there. You'll experience feeling and smelling and sensing different vibrations in your location there. Again, this is spirit moving in close. They're not there to intimidate you or scare you. They're there to inspire you, guide you, and help you on the next run of the ladder, so to speak. Looking into the artwork of this card, we have this beautiful feminine energy. And as we said earlier, sitting in the seat of your own power. So it's talking about you trusting your sensitivity this week and not second guessing yourself when you get that urge, when you get that feeling, following it and doing it accordingly. The fact that this lady is resting there with the wings down, it's an angelic being, is telling you to actually, when you feel that urge to take time out, don't feel that as though you're wasting your time. In actual fact, this is where you'll get the inspiration, the downloads, the upgrades. Even though you think that you're not doing anything, you're doing more good than you realize. This is also talking about a rebirth in your life, looking at your life slightly different, moving on to a new timeline there as well, and actually nurturing yourself more so than what you have done in the past, allowing yourself to blossom and grow at your own pace, regardless of what anybody else thinks, says, or does. The fact that this card also has a shield and it's heart-shaped and that is on the floor there, that would indicate that you've let that guard down away from your emotions, away from your heart there, and you're trusting the process. And in trusting it, you're moving into this new timeline, you're having a rebirth. Again, you're finding your feet with the power and the strength of who you genuinely are. This card would also indicate, again, inspirations coming in, as you can see there. So when you're resting, this is where you're going to get that guidance from your higher self, the world of spirit. And if you get that inclination to do something and you're second guessing it, I can't do that, that's not worked out for me before, this week we'll see you actually eradicating that line of questioning where you just think, okay, I'll do it now. I'll do it now. You'll just feel it. You'll sense it and you'll do it now. And in doing that, you'll move yourself forward rapidly on your timeline. I do feel as though you're moving into pastures new there as well. And there's something about keeping family ties, keeping the bonds there with the family. So look out for that this week. So I hope that resonates with you for this week's energy forecast reading. Thank you for hearting, liking, commenting and sharing. If you've enjoyed this reading and you would like to help and support the work that I do, I have got a buy me a coffee link either above or below this video. And this is a virtual tip jar, so all of your generous donations will be gratefully received and used in accordance with the spiritual work that I do to help people raise their vibration on their pathway. If you would like a private reading with myself or any other of my services, head over to my website, www.glenboddicespiritualmedium.com, or you can book in with me on Facebook, Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium. Send me a message there and book in with me. Join me every Monday at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time on www.pulsetalkradio.com with my radio show From Beyond with Glenn Boddice, talking about all things spiritual, paranormal and self-help. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Bye for now.
Well, it certainly sounds like we're in for a fascinating week of unfoldment by the sounds of things, where we're going to step into our authenticity and truth and not really give two hoots about what anybody else thinks, says or does as we continue to blossom and grow on that timeline. And not to sound negative, obviously it's a very positive, life-affirming thing, isn't it, when we move into new vibrations. So I hope that resonates with you. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode and you can take something from it to either expand your consciousness or your wisdom base there and just maybe look at things more differently in your life. So if you have any questions for the show and you would like to get some answers from either Spirit or myself or Christina Bloom, then please get in touch by going over to my website, www.glenboddicespiritualmedium.com, or you can email me at glennboddice@live.co.uk. As ever, it will be fascinating to hear from you. Anyway, you can join me the same place next week on Monday, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time on www.pulsetalkradio.com with this very radio show From Beyond with Glenn Boddice. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to From Beyond. For more information, about what products and services Glenn provides, go to Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium